Hey everyone, and welcome back. You guys have sent us on a really interesting deep dive this time.
Yeah, this is a big one.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're going to try to figure out if the American dream is, well, basically built on a mountain of credit card debt.
It's a really interesting question. And to answer it, we need to go way back.
Okay, so back to the future.
No, not quite the future. Back to the past. The 1950s, to be exact. That's where this whole idea of shopping as, like, a patriotic duty really took off.
Right, because after World War II, things started to change, right?
Exactly. Factories that were building tanks and planes, well, they started making things like washing machines and cars.
And everyone wanted the newest stuff. I bet those ads back then were amazing at convincing people to buy.
Oh, they absolutely were. But then, in the middle of all this, came the credit card.
Which at the time probably seemed like a fantastic idea. Buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
What could go wrong, right?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. Because that little piece of plastic might be a bigger deal than anyone thought back then.
And speaking of now, let's fast forward to today. Prices are going up, up, up. And it doesn't feel like our paychecks are keeping pace, does it?
Not at all. And that brings us to that scary statistic about credit card debt. Think about this. Americans owe over $1 trillion on their credit cards.
A trillion. I don't even know what to compare that to.
It's huge. Just imagine if you split that debt evenly between every single household in America, each one would owe almost $9,000.
Wow. And that's just credit cards, not even mortgages or student loans or anything else.
Exactly. And it really shows just how tough it is for a lot of people to keep up with the cost of living these days.
It's not just about today, though. What really worries me is what this means for the future. Retirement, especially.
Oh, absolutely. We're on the edge of a retirement crisis. People are reaching retirement age without enough saved up, and even those who did save are seeing their money disappear because of, well.
Inflation.
Yep. So they end up working their whole lives with the promise of a comfortable retirement, and it's just not there.
It's a lot to think about. But speaking of big players, what about the government? They've got to be trying to do something about all of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. They can't just stand by and watch, right? Especially when the economy takes a hit. Think about it. Stimulus checks, those tax breaks they hand out, all those programs. The idea is if you give people money, they're going to spend it.
Which, I mean, on the surface, it sounds like a good idea.
Right.
Get people spending, give the economy a little boost.
Right.
But doesn't that feel like, I don't know, putting a Band-Aid on a much bigger problem?
Well, that's what a lot of people are saying. It's a quick fix, but is it really fixing anything in the long run? It's a big debate.
I mean, what are the downsides besides, potentially making the national debt even bigger?
Well, there's that, but one of the biggest concerns is inflation. Like, you're pumping more money into the system, but is it actually worth anything if prices keep going up?
Right, because if your dollar doesn't buy as much anymore, are you really any better off?
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of the national debt. Every time the government spends money, it doesn't, that debt just keeps growing. It's a tricky situation.
No easy answers, that's for sure. Okay, so we've got this whole big picture view. How we spend, the economy going up and down, the government trying to, keep things steady. But how does this affect like a regular person just trying to manage their money?
That's the important question, isn't it? Even if you're not an economist, this stuff matters. Like, how much does it cost to buy groceries now? Can you even think about buying a house? And don't even get me started on saving for retirement.
Exactly. It can feel like you're stuck on this treadmill.
Yeah.
Spend, and the goalposts keep moving. No wonder so many people are stressed about money.
Absolutely. And let's be real, all those ads don't help, do they? We're constantly told that we need the newest phone, the latest clothes, the bigger house. Like, that's what happiness is.
What at what cost, right?
Right.
So it feels like we're at this crossroads, right? We've got this culture built on buying. But it's like we're hitting a wall, economically speaking. If constantly spending isn't the answer, what is? What are some of the things people are suggesting to maybe change course a little?
Well, there are definitely some different schools of thought on this. Some experts, especially those who, lean a little more to the left, they talk a lot about strengthening those safety nets.
The safety nets like social programs and things like that?
Exactly. Things like increasing the minimum wage, policies that try to even out the playing field a bit when it comes to income.
So the idea being that if you help those who are struggling the most, it actually lifts everyone up in the long run.
Exactly. They argue that it creates more sustainable growth overall because when everyday people have a little extra cash, they spend it. And that spending helps businesses grow, which helps the whole economy, right?
Right. So it's less about like trickle-down economics and more about like building a strong base.
Exactly. Now, of course, there's the other side of the coin. You've got more conservative voices who are all about less government interference. They say cut taxes, reduce those pesky regulations, especially on businesses, and let the free market work its magic.
So instead of focusing on demand, like getting people to spend more, they're focused on supply.
Exactly. Their thinking is that when businesses thrive, they create more jobs, pay better wages, and that ultimately benefits everyone.
It's really interesting to hear these two different perspectives. It really shows that there's not some magic bullet.
No magic bullet, that's for sure. And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating. It's not about telling you what to think, but giving you the information to make up your own mind.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the history of how we shop to the anxieties so many people feel about money, even how the government tries to keep everything from falling apart. But it still feels like there's this big question hanging in the air. If our current system, where everything depends on us constantly buying more stuff, if that's not sustainable, then what is?
The million-dollar question, right. And honestly, I don't think anyone has the perfect answer. It's probably going to take a whole bunch of things working together, smart choices from individuals, better policies from our leaders, and maybe, just maybe, we need to rethink what's really important. What do you think?
I think that's a conversation we all need to be having. We've thrown a lot of information your way today, but we hope it gets you thinking, gets you curious to learn more. Who knows, maybe one of you listening will be the one to come up with that big idea, that game changer that sets us on a better path. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone, and until next time, keep those brains buzzing.